this is Graham, also known as the Collector 75, and welcome back to my Transformers Marvel UK Generation 1 comics review. Right, this is part 22, I believe. If it's not, it'll say it up in the description somewhere, but I just cannot remember where I've got up to. Anyway, doesn't matter. So this is part 22 or whatever, and we are starting here at issue 199, and we're going all the way through, hold on, to issue number 210. So issue 199, dated the 7th of January 1989, still at 35 pence. And this starts off the epic Time Wars storyline. I was really looking forward to this storyline, but on a few different notes, I was a little bit disappointed with it. It's got its ups and downs. There's quite a few ups, and I think just the ending is just a bit of a letdown. Right, so anyway, this was to tie up all the storylines started really from Target 2006, way back in about issue number 78, or give or take. And it had been running for around just over 2 years, something like that, threading in and out of all the issues and stuff like that through Target 2006, Fallen Angel, Wanted Galvatron Dead or Alive, Headhunt, what else have we got, Legacy of Unicron, then Space Pirates and a few Wrecker stories in between where they're trying to track down Galvatron and whatever. Anyway, right, so then it culminates in this story here. Yeah. Anyway, right, so we're going to have here we go. Time Wars begins, unleash the apocalypse. Right, so we open up the issue, and then we get the usual new look transformation page, which I absolutely hate. And we are starting here with just a quick recap. This is where we start off with. Imagine the fabric of space and time, a still, calm, balanced, stable pond or something. And then imagine a stone cast onto it. In this case, Cyclonus and Scourge and Galvatron time jumping back in time. And then the ripples from that just spread and get worse. Made worse by the fact that Cyclonus here dies 20 years before he's even created. That basically starts it off. And this tear in the fabric becomes a yawning, hungry rift and consumes Quintus on itself. And then Autobot scientists discover in the future that it's going to consume everything, unless they find a way to stop it. And see, the end of everything has begun. And so we start off here in the year 2009 on New Year's Day. And it looks a bit of like an apocalypse here. The skies are burning, the Terracons are running amok, and everybody's running for their favourite issue down here of Dragon's Claws, which I thought was quite funny. I believe this is one of the first issues, I could be wrong, but it's definitely around then, drawn by Andrew Wildman. No, not that keen on his work. I mean, it's good, but, you know, I think there's better eyes for me personally. But, yeah, I mean, but he's definitely got a certain style, which I do like. So anyway, so the Terracons are running amok as usual, just trying to frighten the humans out of this settlement, I think, something like that, so they could strip it down, or using them as a workforce, I can't exactly remember here, for their energy siphon. The Autobots are doing something. They've detected this rift in time and space and everything. Cup wants to know why they're not actually pursuing the Decepticons with their energy siphon. Rodimus basically just says, well, they've got bigger fish to fry, namely in this rift. Anyway, so Daniel here and Spike manage to convince Rodimus that, alright, we should help. So they send a quick task force with RC, basically to destroy their energy siphon here. Soundwave now, with the disappearance of Galvatron and the death of Shockwave, has assumed command of the Decepticons. And he's doing a pretty good job, if you ask me. So they're blah 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 blah, the Autobots attack, destroy the siphon, Soundwave gets the right ump. They decide to go and attack Autobot City. Then there's actually no one there, and they find the records basically that they've all gone, time jumped into the past, to the year 1989. So Soundwave knows that really he should just strip Autobot City of all its things, but instead he knows that that could lead to dissension in the ranks. So he says, let's go get us some Autobots, and they themselves time jump back in time. Then we've got more Dread Tidings, we've got Combat Colin, and then we've got the Mighty Marvel checklist with Death's Head number 2, The Real Ghostbusters number 30, Transformers 199, and Action Force Monthly number 8. And then the backup strip is obviously more Action Force. And then we've got a nice advert there for Transformers number 200. Nice classified. And on the back we've got a nice advert for the Death's Head comic, which is pretty cool. Then we come on to Transformers number 200. Quite a feat when you think about it. It was just a spin-off toy title that probably most people thought it only last a few issues. But I did get it signed by Simon Firm. You can barely see that written in pen. And it did come with this free gift. I think by then free gifts were getting a bit thin on the ground. It was just like a fact file thing. Yeah, not really that interesting if you ask me. Yeah, best forgotten really, never mind. So anyway, so we have issue number 200. Now then, this features the first appearance of... Actually, no, it starts off with a nice advert for Dev said again there. A pictorial history of Transformers, just in case there's any new readers jumping on. And here we are, they start off now back in the past in Earth 1989. With the first appearance of Ravage, since he was dropped down that mine by Skids. He says he's recently just, come back online and he's not going to let all these earthquakes and everything knock him back out. And he says what he really needs now, because it's all coming down around him, is a good support tunnel. And he just happens to find them. And they lead basically to this, which is a it's a Scourge, obviously. And he says he's been away that long with little humans turning into guns. And then he sees Galvatron. Then we step away from Galvatron for a moment there. We have Interluder 2009 with all the Autobots just preparing to time jump back into the past with all the Autobots again in the past with Optimus Prime. They're holding a meeting and everything, and they're about to disappear. And then we have a quick recap of Highbrow outside Autobot headquarters there, with what happened in the annual, with him ripping off Scorponok's head, and then all the other Decepticons now coming to get that head. So that's going to lead into a battle there. We have Autobot Triple Changes and Inferno. Can't remember what they're up to, but there's a nice calendar there for January with one of my favourite ever covers there. Then we have Robo Capers. There is no backup story in this, but we just got a lot of 200 Microbots to be won. They weren't called Micromasters back then. This is when they first come out. They probably changed the name maybe, or didn't know the name, or whether we headed under. Anyway, so he's come back to Galvatron and Ravage, and he realises that he is Megatron. He says, no, Ravage, not Megatron, not anymore. And then he sees someone else behind him, and he knows he's really gone mad now after all that time and deactivation. Anyway, the Autobots up here in the future. Time jump back into the past, and bang, and all these, there's a pitch battle going on outside. The Autobots intervene. And then suddenly there's a massive flash of light. The Autobots from the future arrive. Just as... Hang on. Is this one page? Yeah, it's a bit of a thick page, yeah. The Autobots, including Optimus Prime, disappear, with Fortress Maximus not knowing what's happened. But there is a bit of a continuity error here, because they're dead. They're all dead, said by Ironhide. And you'd think he would have remembered from the last time, wouldn't you, really? And then there's just this, oh my god, yeah, and these guys killed them, even though they're wearing Autobot signs. And so all the Autobots then attack the Autobots from the future. Thought that was a little bit silly, really, if you ask me. I think, yeah, not my favourite thing there. I do like the back of the cover, because this did have a wraparound cover. With Galvatron casting the reflector, or the shadow of Megatron there. So that was pretty cool. Good wraparound cover, actually. You could have taken these off, because obviously British comics do this all the time. Even 2000 AD does this sometimes when they get a good bit of artwork. So that was issue number 200. I'm going to put the fact bit away. Got a lot of issues to get through. I'm trying not to make this part too long, but Time Wars is worth it. And then we have the Autobot War. Not really much to say about this. There was a miscoloured page here, obviously, with the Autobots from the past attacking the Autobots from the future. Meanwhile, the rift in time and space grows ever worse and threatening Earth in the past and in the future. Kind of like Zero Hour from DC Comics there. Anyway, right, so these Autobots, basically Rodimus Prime is trying to get through to Fortress Maximus. Fortress Maximus ain't having none of it, nor Grimlock. Still there we go. And there's a bit of a battle and everything. And then we basically have the Decepticons all turn up, and they re-put Scorponok's head back on Scorponok, and he says, "Oh, I hunger for revenge. Where is Highbrow?" And I love this bit. He says, Mindwipe says, "Sadly, Highbrow vanished with Prime and the other Autobots. Will this one do instead?" And Scorponok just says, "I'm not fussy." I did like that a little bit. And then all the Decepticons behind Scorponok disappear, just as Soundwave and the Terracons turn up from the future. But luckily, because of that, Ultra Magnus does manage to escape from Scorponok there. And then meanwhile, some other Decepticons and Autobots turn up, namely the Wreckers, with a quick alliance with the newly formed Decepticon Mayhem Attack Squad. I think they've been called here by these Autobots there that we saw in the previous issue. Yes, and he can't believe they've teamed up with him. But obviously he says, "You can't be trusted," and he says, "That's funny. The thing is, Catilla, he's absolutely right. Once our mutual danger is removed, my orders are to kill any Wreckers left standing." Of course we have Catilla here. Now, in the UK continuity, he was started off as a Decepticon. Both him and Karnavac do... Well, I'm not going to say anything. We'll let that story play up. But it does. Galvatron does give a hint to what is coming up here, and here we go. Ravage. He can smell the Autobots coming. He has teamed up with Galvatron and everybody. Now, I do believe Goldbugger has taken a fatal hit. Not fatal so much, but just a nasty hit. Ultra Magnus is now going to show the Autobots this is what happens, and Rodimus Prime uses the Matrix to contact Optimus Prime, who's now been displaced into Limbo. And he basically convinces all the Autobots to basically team up because there's a larger threat at large. And the Decepticons listen and see what's happening. Now, I never understood the point of having Soundwave and the Terracons from the future because they do absolutely nothing. They're just there, they just hang around in the background. I don't even believe they attack anyone. So I think it's more really just to get rid of all the other Decepticons out of the way. I mean, I could be wrong. Still, there we go. Anyway, unknown to all the other Autobots, the Wreckers and the Decepticon Mayhem Attack Squad are now entering Galvatron's base. As it goes, a trap? Of course it is. As you well know, and Springer goes, "Galvatron, but confident in the weight of numbers will be enough to force me to return me to my own time. You walk breathily into the lion's den. Foolish Autobots, I do not fight alone. Who's that with you? It is I, Megatron." And now we have Megatron and Galvatron teamed up, and they are going to take down everybody. And that's one of the highs. This storyline is fantastic for the body count. I did love that. So we've got more dread tidings there. We have a stock exchange. They were a bit thin on the ground as the time went by. We got Wanted, good condition. Swap Nightbeat. I don't know, you should have kept hold of Nightbeat, especially the early days of eBay. He was quite expensive. So we got Jason McAdoley there. I'm not going to say his address. Then we've got Action Force, Hush Job. Not really into Action Force, as you well know. What we got here, then we got next week Twins of Evil, and we got Combat Colin. And then we got the Weetabix Workout. Fancy having a go with that? Then we're moving on to issue number 202, Twins of Evil. A good cover there, I do like that one. And then we've got, I never mentioned this before, this issue is drawn by Dan Reed, and his artwork is absolutely crazy. I never really liked it at the time. I mean, it was good, it was vibrant, but it was just crazy. Like everyone's got these sharp, pointy teeth and everything like that, and I never really understood it. Really. Anyway, so we start off with the usual bit. The rift is growing worse, and it is going to be soon consuming Earth. Meanwhile, Galvatron is oblivious to this fact. He does not care one little bit. Megatron doesn't know, I suppose. So anyway, Wreckers, so we have Galvatron and Megatron now jumping into the middle of the Wreckers. And they've made a fatal mistake. They've gone in with no plan, no nothing, not knowing that Megatron was going to be there. So this is throwing them totally off. And basically, this is it. You know, I love this bit. He says, they don't find alone the Decepticons, their Mayhem Attack Squad. And he says, yes, and you are the leader, Karnavac. I remember how you later remember. And I think this is now a giant continuity area here for Galvatron, because he starts to remember, I think he's starting to remember two different versions all at once, because he remembers one thing where he wins, and then he obviously remembers all the events after this where he doesn't win. That's as best as I can put my finger on it, because it just doesn't make sense otherwise. And I think that was the point of it. And especially with there's another story coming up which is going to completely throw everything about this story and all some previous stories completely out the window. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He starts off here by quickly dispatching oh god, what was his name? Battle Trap, which is always good. There we go, that's it. Battle Trap has bit the dust there. And now, I love this. Today, come on, let's join in, because now Galvatron is taking apart the Decepticon Mayhem attack squad, and he says, well, what are you waiting for, Wreckers? Let's help them. Today we fight alongside the Decepticons. And then Megatron is standing there and he goes, unfortunately, Wreckers, to get to Galvatron, you must first get past me. And I love this, is it Top Spin? He says, hey, don't stop for him, he's not nearly as powerful as Galvatron. I'll just, in a quick blast of his fusion cannon, completely obliterates his head and kills Top Spin. And I just loved it. I'd have preferred this picture. You can see he's like seething with hatred and that. I'd have preferred if he'd been laughing and he'd just gone ha ha ha, because I think that would have been better. Just, you know, like a maniac laugh. That would have been better, I think. And he just says, powerful enough for you, Top Spin. Powerful enough for you, all you Wreckers. I am Megatron. I am power incarnate. And he just steps in and starts taking them apart. And he says, this is disastrous. We've not got a plan. Everything's going wrong. And he says, it's your fault, Carnivac. And they can't keep blaming each other. But then Scourge turns up and he's about to take them both out. But Ravage wants to have a pop at them as well. But then Springer basically says, what's happened to Cyclonus? Where is he? And he starts thinking that maybe he might have a point, that thanks to him, this is all coming apart because Galvatron or Megatron has killed Cyclonus and they know he must return to the future. It's quite weird why he does the right thing. I never put my finger on exactly right. But he knew there was something wrong. So he thinks that maybe he could take out Galvatron. Right, so here we go with, we're next at Rodimus Prime, talking to Optimus Prime here in Limbo and basically saying blah 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 blah. There's Galvatron and Megatron. Everyone needs to team up to fight alongside them, and most people aren't happy. Everybody steps in. It's a good bit of carnage here. I love this bit where he rips something of Venom here. I don't know what he's just ripped off, but he's ripping him apart. So that's the end of Venom. I do like it, and I love the body count there. Oh dear. There's the end of Chop Shop. And now we have to retreat now. He goes, but he says, shamed into retreating in front of an Autobot. But no one will learn of this. I'll make sure of that, because when we're accomplished our mission, my orders are to kill any Autobots left standing. Good old Decepticons, you can't fault them for that. And I love this bit now. Here we go. It goes, an excellent start. When we've rested, we end it, and then goes, and the Galvatron goes, no, that's what we did last time. We go after them now. And Megatron says, last time? What? I don't understand. And it's of no consequence. The annihilation of the Transformers starts immediately. Nothing can stop me, nothing. And I think this is quite cool, because I think now Galvatron has really, his madness has emulated himself above all other Transformers, and he sees himself as something else, not a Transformer, which is pretty cool. And then the apocalypse starts to get worse as the Rift now starts trying to consume the Earth, which is pretty cool. Then we got Dread Tidings, more, it's a nice picture of Scorpion up there. And Hush and everything, and then with allies like these, or you can see what's coming. More Codename Combat Colin, another advert for Death's Head there. And now we have this issue. And I did wonder what was going on, because you can see a picture of Galvatron's arms, and it says, it's okay, Carnivac, we beat him, it's over. And you do wonder what's coming. I do like what happens. And just who are the Sleaze Brothers? That was a good comic, I did like that. Shame it only ran for about six issues in a special, but there we go. So we've got the Rift there. I'll start with that, so we start off with that and how far it's progressing. We have now Scourge attacking the Decepticon base. He wants Cyclonus's body. But Shockwave still can't compute what has happened to him in the future. Don't ask me why, but Ravage does manage to get through to him. He does take out Scourge though, which is pretty cool, sort of. As you can see, blasts in there, falls down. He doesn't die. But Ravage does, sooner or later, manage to convince Shockwave that he needs to do the right thing and return Cyclonus' body to the Rift. And he says, well, you've got 20 years to plan for your death. Surely you can think of something by then. Yeah, you know. Anyway, so the Autobots and everybody's fighting Galvatron as usual and not having much luck. I love this bit. Oh dear, poor Sandstorm just gets absolutely decimated there. Arms and legs go flying. I love that. Definitely thanks to Galvatron, because his gun is smoking there. And now we have a bit that was also Simon Furman used later in issue number 75 of the US comic. Now we're going to test an untested weapon thanks to Rack and Ruin here. Everybody starts attacking, no one's doing too well. Optimus Prime really wants to leave Limbo, but he knows the presence of 2 primes in one time continuum, 2 matrices will just hasten the end of everything. There's Skids, been a prisoner since issue number 101. He's not doing too well. There's another storyline coming up with that. And where are we going now? He is literally just about to destroy Carnivac here, but someone throws a rocket at him. I think it was Springer, and now this is because obviously Carnivac has got a lot of honour. A bit like, it's kind of like the character Dinobot out of Beast Wars. His honour really does take over from being a bad guy, which is good because you can tell where he's going. And then we have their experimental weapon. We have Roadbuster here, gonna test the Path Blaster. And they're saying, while he's distracted, be careful, the Decepticon's Path Blaster is very new, untested. No sweat, says Roadbuster. And then suddenly it's 20 years ago for Galvatron. He sees himself as Megatron, feels a searing pain as the Path Blaster hits him. Closes his aim at Megatron, and decides in an instant to save himself. And now he's changed the past again, which does sort of lead you to believe that something is definitely wrong with this timeline, because now he's changing the past here, there and everywhere. Does he really expect that time will then turn out the way he wants it to? But the Path Blaster does hit Galvatron right smack in the side of the face, and I love that picture of all this circuitry hanging out in half a head. And then we do have the end of Roadbuster. Roadbuster, readings have gone off the scale. Some sort of feedback. Drop it before bang, and it just takes out Roadbuster. Rack and Ruin do survive, at least for an issue. There you go, spring away. Galvatron may have been put down, but he's not out. And I love this. Galvatron is just unstoppable. So we have more Action Force. Not many adverts these days, are there, any? No. And then we've got 2 more issues of this storyline to go. We've got more Combat Colin. Here we are. Now this, I don't think you'd get away with this in any other comic. This one, issue number 204. I just love it how you open this up. Hold on, some great art by Lee Sullivan here. This, you open it up and you've got a maniac ripping off someone's head. You see the anguish on his face. And then just while he's doing that, he's shooting someone else and killed them, because you can see his head popping off. Poor old Rack and Ruin, they didn't survive very long, did they? I just thought that was fantastic. It's one of my favourite ever, just opening a comic up to see that. You'd never see that in any other comic. And I love it because you've got all the entrails of circuitry. I just find that amazing. I love it. And you can get away with it because they're robots. And we've got Rodimus Prime here. Now he enters the fray. He says, by the Matrix, it's revolting. You can see I love Galvatron. He just throws Twin Twist's head just right across the arena there. And I love the picture. This is how that one where he killed Topspin. That's the sort of face you have, like an evil laugh. Galvatron, we have company. And more Autobots to destroy. But this time they're going with a bit more of a plan, so it's, you know, a bit better. Sort of. Oh dear, hang on, here we go. And he says he's faced a list of the others drew blood Rodimus Prime, but that's not how I remember it happening. But then, it's of no consequence. As Megatron, I watched myself destroy Optimus Prime and all his Autobots, and even though things are happening differently this time, I doubt it'll be too difficult to ensure that history repeats itself. And he just takes them all out. I love it. And then we have Soundwave here. And he says, I'm weary of this Soundwave. I will destroy this Galvatron and be done with it. Hold Scorponok. And he goes, let's just wear them down. Then we can take down Galvatron. And then the Autobots will be done too. And he goes, no, that is the weak way. Galvatron dies at my hands or not at all. And this is where Soundwave just says, Hunger, gather your fellow Terracons. I believe it's time we're heading back to our own time. Because he knows it's futile. It's an absolute pointless thing. So like I said, I just didn't understand the point of them being there. I really didn't. So he watches as the battle continues, helpless to act or assist, and he desperately wants to get back. And then we have Galvatron here taking down Scorponok, but he doesn't kill him. We have another thing there, nice picture there from Cyclonus and Scourge, long time ago. I think that was Headhunt. Then we got in the middle of this issue, I have no idea why, we've got the Action Force story. And then we have Ravage, he's found Scourge there. Scourge knows he must go to the Rift. And he basically explains to Ravage that he's got his Cyclonus' body, he needs to give it back to the Rift. And then Galvatron here just easily takes down Scorponok and uses Ultra Magnus' blast where he's about to blast Galvatron to finish him off. And the other Decepticons don't like it, they turn on Ultra Magnus. Here we go. Ends now, Galvatron, one way or the other. How true, Rodimus Prime. Ends Rodimus Prime, but that's not right. It can't be, isn't who? That isn't Al. It was Optimus Prime. No! His mind, already teetering on the edge of madness, tries to grasp why present events conflict with those he once saw through the eyes of his past self, Megatron. Rodimus Prime, axe, die, and he just easily swats him aside, and then he knows he dare not wait a moment longer, using the Matrix's power as a stepping stone. Optimus Prime enters the fray. And this is what everybody was waiting for. Optimus Prime against Galvatron, with the fate of the entire universe resting on him. And that is what we was wanting. That, unfortunately, what we get, I was livid. I was so disappointed. So disappointed. Anyway, so next week, that's all it needs to say. It's Time Wars, the conclusion. And then we've got some classifieds here. Forbidden Planet up in London. You've got Glasgow, Dublin, Newcastle, Cambridge, Brighton, Milton Keynes. Don't know if there was that one there. Nostalgia and Comics. I went there in Birmingham. Yeah, anywhere else? Used to have Comics Showcase, but that's long since gone. Up from London now. And so we have issue number 205, February 89. I beat them all. Got on my signed by Simon Firm. You're probably not going to see it. So we start off here with Galvatron with a beaten up Optimus Prime. Now you know something's not right because he's got all his face. This is just how Galvatron remends everything ending. Crushing Optimus Prime's head with a rock, standing victorious with his old self watching in the background. But this is how reality is unfolding. Megatron watching Galvatron getting beaten up by Galvatron. Not really seeing this fight. Optimus Prime is just taking pot shots at him because Galvatron has just lost the plot. And that is it. Nothing really happens, really. It's just a bit anticlimaxy, whatever you want to call it. Ravage, like I said earlier, convinces Shockwave that he's got 20 years to plan for his death so he can do something about it. There you go, see, so then he flies off. And Megatron now has decided to have a change of heart. Is this victory? I think not. Following Galvatron, I've made the same mistakes that once led to madness and defeat. The mindless slaughter of Autobots and Decepticons is just a symptom of that madness. They sense it has gone bad. Like frightened animals, they scour for their holes, fleeing in vain hope that they can escape what is surely coming. Galvatron's plan was rash, irresponsible, and this is the result. But I shall not run. If this is my destiny, I embrace it. But if my destiny is to live, and this world also survives, it will be mine for the taking. And Megatron there just walks off, leaves Galvatron to his fate. And then Optimus Prime just, I love it, he headbutts Galvatron right in the face there. And then the time storm erupts onto Earth, sweeping up everyone into it. And I love just this, how he defies it and just stands up to it and says, "No, I defy you, I am Galvatron," and is swept aside. And then he's just totally just deconstructed and just swept up into the time storm. Everybody's about to go, and it says no, it wants all of them, and then Scourge comes along and is swept up into it. Luckily, Shockwave turns up with the body of Cyclonus, and he just lets him go, and then just fires at it, and that ends everything. And now it's all just calm weather. Absolutely everyone's fine. And then he says, basically, in the future, you need to destroy all your time travel devices. They go off into the future, and says, Shockwave, you've basically done it. And I love it, so it ends, only it never really ends, does it? He goes, "No, I can never repay you for what you did here today, but that changes nothing. While you remain committed to the Decepticon cause, I will do everything in my power to stop you. When we next meet, we'll be sworn enemies." But I love this bit. He goes, "But of course, anything else would be illogical." And Shockwave just flies off. And that is it. That is the end of Time Wars. That is the end of all the storylines. That was basically to wrap up everything that happened. In fact, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stop this part here because this has gone on far too long. And I'll make part 23 the next bits that I was going to do for this one. It's just gone on a bit too long. Anyway, so we've got Dread Tidings here. An advert for Action Force. Get the album before Cobra get you. Right, and then we go back to part 23. That'll have the conclusion of the underbase saga. Yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, right, yeah, so that was the end of Time Wars. Time Wars was basically to wrap up everything. I believe now that it was basically to say that the comic sales were starting to decline. As far as I know, I did read this in some of the hardback editions of the collected versions of these, and they were basically told that they didn't want no more sort of like epics running through the comic, and if they were going to do one, it had to be no more than about 2 or 3 issues long, because if they needed to cancel the comic, at least then they could wrap it up quite easily. There'd be no hidden storylines in and out, weaving out like this had for the last 2 years, and it's a shame. Because there were some good ones coming up, but I feel if they'd have been properly fleshed out, they could have been really good storylines. As they were good, but just far too short. But there we go. I suppose a good man did once say that less is more, usually. Anyway, right, this has been Graham, the Collect 75. I'll see you next time. Bye for now. Hello there. Now, I just did say that was the end, but you know, I thought, do you know what? If it's going to be a long video, let's make it a long video. So here we carry on with issue number 206, dated 25th of February 1989, still at 35p. Now, this is the second half of the Underbase saga that was the US story at the time. Again, like I said previously, I never understood exactly why they put Time Wars right in the middle of it. Not totally sure. I mean, maybe they had to, because they'd caught up with the American comics, so they needed something to put in and they didn't have any other stories to do that. So maybe that's why they did. But if not, it seems a bit strange to me. But there we go. And especially because at the time it made this just a pointless story to me, because I didn't think much on it. Because it was okay, but compared to what was happening at the time with Time Wars and everything else, that was just brilliant. And then you get this, and this was like the first really American good storyline that they had tried to do over a few issues, you know, from when it started, which was a shame, because then it's sort of like, for us Brits, it just sort of made it inconsequential and a bit boring, really. So anyway, I can't remember what happened last time, but we have the Decepticons here, original sort of lot, facing off against some other ones, because basically 2 lots of Transformers are competing here. We have Scorponok's Decepticons along with Shockwave's Decepticons, with Starscream in the middle trying to appease everybody for his own ends. They know the underbase is coming and everybody sort of wants it. They're trying to keep their hand to themselves. And then we have an advert here for the Death's Head comic, which is pretty cool. I did like that. The Autobots are trying to spy on the Decepticons. Again, I can't remember if they know that the underbase is coming, but most people say that Optimus Prime wanted it for himself, but he doesn't. So here we go. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing much happening. Yeah, not much is happening. Not much happens, unfortunately. But we do have a great advert here for Dragon's Claws. Brilliant. Drawn by Jeff Senior. Fantastic artwork. I love the bit, because obviously, pretty said this before, actually. But obviously that issue there where Death's Head does cross over into it, that is a great issue. And then we have him with his team called the Evil Dead. What was he called? Slaughterhouse, that was right. That was a good 10-issue series. Very underrated. More Action Force at the back here. Not really that bothered. We've got Combat Colin. I'm waiting for the one where it takes the Mickey out of the prisoner. I'm waiting for that one. I haven't seen it yet. If anyone noticed that I've gone past it, let me know. And then we have Decepticon versus Decepticon in a Cold War, where the Decepticons now again attack each other. Don't ask me why it gets. It's just to show off all these troops and everything, and try and, you know, and all this and blah 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 blah. Not much happening. I love the bit how Scorponok just rips Tantrum apart there. That's always cool. Another advert there for Death's Head, which is quite a funny one. Yeah, it's not much happening, I'd say that now. But Starscream does dump, is it Spike Witwicky, out in the thing, and he gives him a thing to alert the Autobots to where he is. The Decepticons are having a fight, and he says, well, you can push the button to save yourself, but the Autobots will come. And he says, well, if they come with all these Decepticons around, they'll be slaughtered by all the Decepticons. He says, well, that's your choice. But Starscream knows that, and he's got plans of his own. Spike here knows he's got no choice. He has to push the distress button, alerting the Autobots to his presence. And here we have the underbase. And now you can see this is where they got the idea for the Allspark, for the Transformers movies and everything. I love the thing. It's supposed to be like a thing of knowledge, and because it's got so much knowledge compacted into it, it makes, and it's, I think they're kept in like beams of light. So that's how its storage thing is. And because of that, if one little beam, it's become so powerful with all the knowledge of everything that's ever happened and all that malarkey. The beams of light, if a beam of light hits anything, it could turn a world from a lush paradise into a world of death and everything. And all can be fire into a star, sweeping it until it supernovas and dissipates, leaving behind a cold, burned out core and eternal darkness. It's called the underbase, and the underbase is coming to Earth. It just means it literally has the power over life and death, and so anybody who can contain the underbase inside themselves would be like a god, basically, and that's why everybody wants it, including Optimus Prime in those previous issues from the last part wanted it as well. Yes, so that's why everybody wants it. So we have Combat Colin, yeah? And we move on now to Underbase belongs to Starscream. And this does sort of feature the death of Starscream, this story. Here we have the Autobots finding Spike Witwicky. The Decepticons do eventually detect them, and then everybody has a mass battle. Mirage buys it there. This is also to clear the way to get rid of loads of the old characters, which is a bit... I just didn't like the way it did it. There was a reason, like I said, there was loads of characters in this comic now, so they just needed to get rid of all the old ones. But the old ones were people's favourites. But they don't care about this because they just wanted to sell their new toys. Which is fair point, because that's what every comic company does, every toy thing does. That's why they killed Optimus Prime and Megatron in Transformers movie, because they wanted to sell their new leaders. You know, everybody's got Optimus Prime and Megatron, and they're not going to buy another one, are they? So they needed someone new to come along for you to buy. It's just a shame. It is just a shame. And this was controlled by the toy company in some respects. So they said, well, we need you to get rid of all those old ones to sell our new toys. And so Autobots and Decepticons trying to make a big battle, and no one has noticed that Starscream has gone off with the Decepticon ship to intercept the underbase. And eventually they do realise it. And they say ceasefire. And then we've got a nice calendar there for March 1989. And then all the Decepticons now do go after him, but it's too late. Starscream has got the underbase in his sights, and he says, "Give yourself to me." But then a blast from Optimus Prime knocks him straight out of the way, but he's absorbed enough underbase energy to literally become powerful. And that was it. Then we have some more Action Force classifieds there. Combat Colin again, and I love that cover. And then we have a great cover. Shame that isn't actually what's happening in the story, but there we go. Great cover. I can't remember who drew that. That does kind of look like a Jeff Senior cover. I don't know if it does. We used to get, yeah, it was a Jeff Senior cover. And that was one of the biggest things for Time Wars. I can't remember if I said it earlier. Jeff Senior didn't draw one part of that. I mean, Lee Sullivan was okay, but Jeff Senior was the man. I would have loved him to have drawn that. So there we go. Right, so Starscream destroys the Decepticon ship here, both of them in fact, spilling out all the Autobots and Decepticons. They're about to get picked up by the Ark anyway. Starscream just goes off on a mad crusade to kill everyone. Everyone tries to stop him and decimates them all. Aerial bots bite the dust, Jetfire. Gold Bug here, he's about to get recreated into somebody else later on anyway. And just everything. It's just a clear the decks sort of storyline. But it's done in no particularly great fashion. It's just a blast here, a blast there. Oh, he's gone. Everything like that. There's no like what was in Time Wars, that issue 204, where he's ripping someone's head off. You don't get none of that in this, which is a shame. Yeah, so now we have the Dinobots. They're about to be taken out as well. Blast, everyone dies. That is it. See, you can see the deactivated Grimlock down there. It is literally a clear the decks storyline with no real storyline behind it apart from the underbase. And that is it. And we come to the final part of underbase storyline. I believe this was in issue number 50 of the American comics series. That's why, you know, they were having like a story like that. It was to celebrate 50 issues. Oh, pardon me. And now we have the culmination of all this. Right, so again, Starscream here just destroys some more people, blah-de-blah-de-blah. Optimus Prime again is going to try and get the underbase, or so it seems. Scorponok doesn't like the sound of that, so Scorponok flies off to get it, and Optimus Prime basically takes them both out of the path of the underbase, and he says, you both jet rocketers both out of this path, it continues on towards Earth. You fall, the underbase will be destroyed. Sorry, the underbase will destroy Earth, and the planet you... Oh, it will blow up. I know, but I don't think it will get the chance. Its fate has decreed that the underbase is mine, all mine. And now Starscream absorbs every part of the underbase. And it says he's mutating before our very eyes, growing larger and more powerful by the moment, as I fully expected he would, Scorponok. And see him growing and growing, and suddenly, bang, he explodes. He goes, what has happened to Starscream? He found out what I've long maintained. The power of the underbase is too great for any one being to possess. Mere possession brings madness or death. In Starscream's case, it brought both. And he says, well, basically that means you never wanted the underbase for yourself. You wanted Starscream to possess it. That's right. So anyway, then they end up friends and obviously depart and become enemies again, as usual. And that was the end of the underbase saga. And then I believe Bob Budinsky, I can't remember exactly how to pronounce his name, only wrote a few more episodes of the American, I think right up to about issue 55. And some of them were awful stories, and you could tell he had just lost all inclination to wanna. Yeah. Anyway, that is the end of 210 and the final part of issue part 22. I know it has gone on for a long time. Fair play if you've stuck with it all that time. And then we have next week Something Wicked comes our way. Here we are. Anyway, there we go. Right, so that had been part 22 of my Transformers Marvel UK Comics review. Right, I shall see you all next time. Definitely this time. I'll see you all. Bye for now.